is my absolute honor and privilege to be sitting here with two titans of rock and roll, man. Two living legends right here, man. We're hanging out with the members of Soundgarden. Gentlemen, would you mind introducing yourselves and let the people know who you are and what it is exactly you do in Soundgarden?
Hey, I'm Ben. I play bass.
I'm Chris. I sing and play guitar and stuff.
That's right, man. And I must say, first of all, congratulations to you guys, because Superunknown 20th anniversary this year. The reissue coming in June, and so congratulations.
It's a long ways off, you know?
Little bit. But I gotta know. When putting this record together, I mean, then looking back on it like 20 years later, I mean, did you even think that it would manage to have staying power? I mean, when going into the studio and just sitting there like, we're gonna make this record, we're gonna put it out, and
we wrote it in stone. This is gonna last 20 years.
I think our hands were full trying to make it good that year. I felt like, especially now going back and listening, like we were pretty fearless, and we were fearless in light of, if you look at the commercial success a lot of new rock bands were having, and particularly Seattle bands were having, we seemed to kind of thumb our noses at that crap and not really steer into it too much on Superunknown. It didn't appear to me like we were trying to, okay, they know who we are, we just sold 2 million records on Badmotorfinger, we got to go do that again.
Right.
We went a completely different direction.
I remember actually talking about that in the studio. So this is fun because we're doing new stuff.
So then that was
always the exciting thing. I can't wait to see how people take this.
So then that was the plan all along, then, to just kind of buck the trend, so to speak, at that time. Because I know in the early '90s, like with the grunge movement and whatnot.
Plan sounds too self-conscious. It wasn't like that. It was more organic and proactive. Like, we're just that way. We're gonna do what we do.
It was a consequence of sound.
Yeah.
No, it was because it really was just because of where we were in our career. You know, our first album that was known about internationally in large numbers was Badmotorfinger, but we had already been banned for 7 years.
It's kind of like hitting the lead-off double with Badmotorfinger, and then or loaded the bases or whatever, and then we were ready to go. It's like, okay, now we got the chance. We worked really hard to get to this position in life, and Chris and I used to celebrate in the studio, like, wow, we get to do this.
Yeah.
We don't have to do this. We get to do this. People actually want us to come in here and record and do what we love to do. So it's like this huge, like, whoa, privilege and love.
An interesting thing that I'm thinking about, and I'm sure we're going to get a glimpse of that on the reissue. When Superunknown came out, I mean, were there earlier incarnations of the album? I mean, did it originally sound?
No, it slowly but surely just became what it was. We were just writing and arranging songs, and we were all bringing in songs, and we were all, I think, kind of trying to push the boundaries of what each of us thought Soundgarden would sound like.
Yeah.
So it's kind of like, say, if you look at it's Pete Townsend and it's The Who and it's the early 70s, and he's thinking, I want to expand what I do as a songwriter. Well, we were doing that times 4. And I think that's a big reason why we could sort of transform what we did from Badmotorfinger to Superunknown so dramatically, because there are 4 people doing it. But whenever we've made an album, this is really consistent. It's completely mysterious as to what it's going to be until it's mastered. It's like got to be sequenced, mastered, and then you can sit and go, oh, it's that.
Right.
It starts to show its face a little bit when you get almost all the songs going, and we'll have rough mixes of like 75%. Then you can kind of see the personality that it's taking, but they really are. Our records are kind of beasts with their own life, and we've always been pretty good at allowing that to happen. No one individual or any of us collectively have ever seemed to like assert an idea about an album based on a discussion or thought, or what's happening around us. That's never once happened. I don't remember anyone ever saying, we need to be more like X, or we need to have an album that sounds more like...
Or we need to make Sgt. Pepper's.
Never happened
like that.
That's a better move, though, because I feel like if you try to set yourself up for a goal and you just try to keep that in mind. It always feels like at times you just seem to miss out on that because you try to put so much thought and effort and think about it way too much, and then it just like at the end of it,
that
just
becomes
you drop
the
the ball.
focus
Yeah.
instead of what you're actually doing.
So then, what I'm curious too about is again, Superunknown, 20 years, and it's still a giant of a record. I mean, I was listening to it a couple of days ago, and it is incredible. So, my question to you guys is, I mean, why do you think that albums that come out now don't seem to have that type of longevity as Superunknown or any
Because of time sequence in life and the consequence of sound, right? The records that have come out now haven't had a chance to be around for 20 years yet.
I'm looking at like records now that may have come out in the past 5-10 years, and it just seems as if like those aren't going to be deemed as classics in a few years.
You'll be surprised that there will be ones that you might never think about. Right now.
Exactly.
And I think that
oh my God, that's that time period.
I always
That
felt,
represents that time period.
I think we were split up for 2 years. One time I was driving somewhere in Seattle, and our song "Pretty Loose" from our at that time our last album, "Down the Upside," came on the radio, and that was the first time it occurred to me that our music was going to have longevity because there was a different context. It was a different year. It was a different day. It was a different hour. I heard the song before it and the song after it. It seemed to live in this world in a way that, to me, seemed timeless. And that was the first time it occurred to me that, Soundgarden is sort of transitioning into this classic band, without us doing anything.
Yeah.
Right.
The music has its own life and it's doing its own thing. And I don't know, we would have always wanted that to be the case. We would always want to write songs and create records that live on, as does anyone. But you don't know until that time goes by, and that's the only real proof.
I was always cocky and arrogant about that stuff. I always said everything we do, we want it to last 20 years or it's not worth doing.
Yeah, we had a little bit of a schooling from the 80s because, like, if you look at popular music in the 80s, everyone raced toward new production techniques and writing techniques and gear and sort of chasing down this new digital technology and throwing out all of the good stuff, and it really pinned a lot of those huge records, literally like within 10 minutes of time in the 80s, and you hear it, and unless it's a joke or absolute nostalgia, people don't want to hear it. It didn't really have the life that previous decades had, or the 90s did. For that reason, I think people were too willing to kind of focus on elements that put a time stamp on it, as opposed to just creativity and reflecting the period you're in.
That kind of ties into your earlier question about records nowadays lasting long, because the whole culture is so much more fractured. People are more able to get all the knowledge with a click of the button on the computer, right?
Sure.
But that has diminished the communal thing of, like when we were around, MTV was the colossal campfire that everybody could watch and see what was coming up.
Right.
They had specialty shows on different genres.
Everyone in the
Record
world
stores
at the same
mattered.
time.
Right.
Yeah, exactly. Record stores mattered. That's where you go find out what the cool is, like how to act cool. You'd see the other older kids, that's all gone now because of the computer. You're able to buy everything, and it's fractured everybody. The record labels have disappeared, and it's a way bigger net, but it's also isolated everyone a lot more. So a lot of things, there's going to be 10 things that remind you of this decade instead of one or two bands that were there.
Very true. Listen, guys, thank you so much for taking the time. I know you're super busy and we've got to get out of here, but it was a pleasure.